I want to let you know as well that this lecture is going to be available for sale, an audio version at the booth. If you go towards the escalators, there's a large booth there, and this lecture, as well as all the other ones, will be available on audio if you'd like to check that out afterwards. Mr. Zhong will be available at Saji Canada Wellness, booth 136A, afterwards if you have any other further questions and would like to speak to him. If you could all, if Mr. Zhong, you're set up there, please help me in welcoming Henry Zhong.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Maybe you should get a little closer here. It's, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we're going to talk about the Norwegian spruce extract today. Okay, now it's a little quieter. Okay, so this would be an interesting topic. If you come around, you can get more information on it. So we are going to start from we call the fountain of life, actually, that's the name. First of all, how do we get sick? What happens when we get sick? What's wrong? What started the whole thing? So it's actually, we have to start from something called free radical damage. And what is a free radical damage? Anybody know something about the free radical damage? Okay, the cell usually, when they are normal, they are round and smooth and everything. They flow around. It's like red blood cells, white blood cells. If they are smooth, if they are round and smooth and everything, then they move around better. And that's how we actually have a healthier body when they are normal. And when they get stressed out, when they get attacked and stressed out, they start to decay, to change. It's like it's almost like this. When you cut open an apple, the apple starts to turn brown, and that's the starting of the oxidation. What if it progress? And so you see, it starts to progress. Eventually, it becomes decayed, completely gone. You put it in garbage. That actually happens to us. As a human being, we decay the same way an apple does. So the first one is like an 18-year-old girl or boy, a young man, a boy. Then the next one is like middle-aged. And then the next one is we are getting senior, 70, 80, 90, or over 100. So that's how it's the same thing, exactly the same process of aging or oxidative stress causing all this damage in our body. Now, where are they coming from? The free radicals, they come from everything here. It's like radiation, smoking, even exercise itself. If you overdo it, excessive exercise, it also causes stress and free radical damage. Mold, sun rays, antibiotics, drugs, cigarettes, pollution, exhaust from the cars, everything. And even GMOs. Nowadays we eat a lot of food that's genetically modified, and they also cause free radicals. And the free radicals is actually, the most free radicals that we get is from the air we breathe. I mean the oxygen that keeps us alive, that actually causes the most free radicals in our body. So the type of free radicals, we call them, mainly there are two categories. Number one is reactive oxygen species, ROS. The second one is reactive nitrogen species. So they are in the form of hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl radicals, and superoxide. And the other one, reactive nitrogen species, would be nitric oxide and peroxynitrate. So these are the typical free radicals in our body that cause damage to our system. Okay, when you have free radical damage in our body, what keeps us alive is this antioxidants. The antioxidants, they are categorized into basic ones, more advanced ones, and better and higher grade super antioxidants. So the first one we are very familiar with actually is the vitamin. Vitamin A, that's the beta carotene, and vitamin C and vitamin E. Among the vitamins, these are the antioxidants, vitamins. And then the enzymes, we have catalysts, we have glutathione, we hear a lot about this one, and also the SOD, the superoxide dismutase. These are enzyme antioxidants. So what they do is they also neutralize the free radicals in our body. And the proteins even can be antioxidants, especially when we have excessive iron in our body. So when we go to when we hear about when the doctor told us that we are iron deficient, so you can replace or you can supplement iron, but be careful not to overdo it. When you overdose yourself with iron, it actually causes more damage than it helps. So the iron has to, they will have to have enough of this we call transferrin protein to neutralize the excessive iron in our body. So if you have a mechanism in the body to neutralize the excessive iron, then the damage is controlled. The other one is copper. So if your body has excessive copper in the body, you have to have a type of protein that's called ceruloplasmin. This one neutralizes the excessive copper not to cause excessive damage in our body. And then we come to we call super antioxidant, which is we call Lignans. Lignans is also called 7-HMR. The chemical name for it is 7-hydroxymetricinyl. This is called 7-HMR. This is the higher quality, higher end super antioxidant because it has what we call 7-HMR. As you can see, all these different antioxidants, they have a specific function. But this Lignans has 7-HMR, which means if you hear about wide spectrum antibiotic, that's something that can kill all different types of bacteria in the body. So if you have this very severe some kind of infection, you have to use a higher wide spectrum and antibiotics to deal with the condition. Similarly, in our body, the 7-HMR has a wide spectrum. It's 7 of them. Some antioxidants, they have 1 or 2 or 3, up to 3 or 4. But this Lignans, they contain 7 HMR. So it's like almost like a machine gun. So it kills more bacteria or free radicals and all of that. Now, so that's how antioxidants and free radicals, they have to keep a balance. Every day, we are actually creating free radicals in our body to survive, actually. When the oxygen comes into your lungs, it actually travels to the system, and then it will come to your, we call it mitochondria. The mitochondria is the energy plant. It's like a furnace in the cell. It comes in, and the oxygen would give electrons to burn so that you create ATP. That's how we get energy. That's how we survive. So in the process of surviving, actually we produce free radicals. So we survive to produce free radicals, and the free radicals in return, it starts to kill us. So that's just it's paradoxically like that. But how so that means we can never get rid of completely get rid of free radicals. It's just never. You have to if you want to survive, you create free radicals. Even to produce thyroid hormones, you have to have oxidants to make that process happen in the first place. So in the process of surviving, living on, we need to produce free radicals to survive. Then the only choice we have is we have to get enough antioxidants. The antioxidants, they can come from different sources. So all of these vegetables and fruits, they are actually the best source. If you can eat 8 plates of vegetables or 8 servings of vegetables and fruits a day, then you're pretty much covered. But if you are too busy today, you take a McDonald's today and maybe a pizza tomorrow, you are shortchanging yourself every day. Every day you are shortchanging yourself, and then eventually that's how we naturally age ourselves. Actually, in how God created us, we are supposed to live to 120 to 150. Do you know that? We're actually supposed to, because we have the DNA in our body is designed to split between 50 to 60 times in our lifetime. Every 2.4 years is split one time, so new cells comes in, our life continues as normal as it can be when we are allowing it to be normal. So the DNA in our body is like the blueprints. When you do a photocopy on the machine, the first couple times it's very clean, nice. As you copy on, each time it becomes blurry and blurry. Eventually it just becomes nothing. It becomes a whole mess of black stuff. That's how we age, and that's how we reproduce our own cells in a way. So if you are able to keep your DNA clean and nice, because the DNA it has its own, we call the telomere. It locks the DNA inside, also protected by the membrane of the nucleus, membrane of the cell, so it's protected from being damaged. However, as we were talking about how the free radicals starts to attack us from almost all of these sources we mentioned about, then it starts to cause damage in the membrane that protects the cell. So the free radicals, they are what do we call the lost electrons. Each molecule, usually they come with let's say 4 pairs of electrons, 4 pairs, positive and negative, 4 pairs of them. And then they attract each other. Molecule to molecule, they are attached to each other by the electrons. So if one of them is missing or is not bound strong enough, then they get lost. And that's how we call this the single electron is become a free radical. A free radical is like a single person. It's like this is almost like a family living together. Grandpa, grandma, and then father, mother, and then kids, and then husband, wife, and all of that. We live together until one day a drunk driver ran the red light, and then they kill one of them, especially usually the lady. And then the man becomes single, right? When they are single, they are supposed to find a partner somehow. If they have a ready-made one, an easy one, they can just grab and then they can settle down. But usually when they lost one, they become unstable. They start to, it's like a stable family. When somebody split apart, then they start to look around and see who is available and all that. Sometimes they don't necessarily find a suitable match. So let's say they go to the bars and go to the whatever dating site, and they start to, sometimes they become radicalized. That's why we call them free radicals. When they are radicalized, they start to bite and grab, and they don't stay with one stable anymore. They try jump from one to the other. That's what we call a free radical cascading. So it's like it just goes one by one. If it accumulates to a certain point, that's how we get an acne, how we get a pimple. And if it gets bigger and bigger, then it starts to cause, let's say, ulcers in our body. And that's when it starts to cause more problem in our body. Then we feel it. When a pimple, it doesn't really matter that much. It's, yeah, unless it's a whole face. But otherwise, so when it starts to do that, it actually, eventually it starts to invade the core or the nucleus of the cell, which has DNA. We said that DNA has to be normal and then complete. When they start to bite attack the DNA, then the DNA starts to, we call, get mutated, damaged, and changed. When that happens, that's how the cell become almost like handicapped. When they're handicapped, there should be some kind of, we call programmed cell death. When they're mutated, there should be a mechanism to get them out of the system. But if they refuse to go, that's when, almost like a handicap, I mean, this is not a very suitable analogy, but it's like they produce the same kind of wrong-coded, mutated cells. And that's when we actually start to feel something. That's when the doctor said, oh, there's some kind of a mass in there that doesn't look normal. It's different from the other tissue because it's mutated. It's, and that's when things start to get tricky. And when you feel, oh, why do I have difficulty swallowing recently? Why do I have difficulty talking? Why do I have this numb here? Then you'll go see a doctor. When you go to see a doctor, the doctor do the MRI, CT scan, and everything. If they find this lump or nodule or mass there's a fluid inside, then they call it a cyst. If they say, oh, there's fat inside, then they say that's a fatty pocket or fat tumor or something. That's still okay. But if they see that this is more like a lymph mass, it's like a muscle. They are hard, and then, especially when they have blood vessels coming in and out. When they see the blood, we call it vascular activity. That's when they call this suspicious. Then they do biopsy and all that. Eventually they can decide whether this is a dangerous cancerous tissue. When our body is let's say, when we have a small one like this one, or even smaller, we hardly notice them. It doesn't bother us, we don't feel anything. But if it grows to be usually about 2 centimeters big, about this big, then it starts to cause bleeding or cause some other things, uncomfortable or numb or that you can feel. That's when we trigger us to see a doctor and then do all the testing and everything. So when this is where, let's say when you go to Algonquin Park, when you go there and you make a little hut and you live there for 10 years, nobody notice. Maybe nobody reports you, and you sneak out to buy some food and you live there for a long time, nobody cares, nobody bother you. But if you say that you are a billionaire, you have $5 billion, you want to turn the whole Algonquin Park into a subdivision of houses. It's, I'm going to make 500,000 houses there and sell for money. That's when the government will jump in and say, hey, you need an approval. You're not supposed to do that unless you prove to us that you are going to do the environmental study, you are going to have the budget to get the highway, freeway, TTC, and community center, everything mapped out, then we allow you to do that. And that is when our body has some kind of mass in our body, that's how the mass is asking the body for blood vessels. And that's the infrastructure to feed that mass. When you feed that mass, then the blood flow starts to come and go. So come and go. If it's small, there's hardly any blood flow coming in and out. So that's very, very small. That's when our body has very slow development. Even if it's cancer or tumor, it's very slow, very slow. Take 10, 20 years or more to grow. Eventually, it comes to a breaking point that it will start to grow. That's when, usually about 1.5 to 2 centimeters, that's when it starts to gain momentum and energy. That's how people start to notice. So if you catch them early enough, then you have a good chance of dealing with it. Otherwise, it starts to trickle out. When it starts to trickle out, the mutated cells, the cancer cells, the tumor cells, Usually, if we have a strong defense system, we have what we call snipers. They call it NK cells, natural killer cells. They are sitting on the rooftop and sniping those cancer cells, kill them. But if they start to get more and more, then the white blood cells and all these killer cells, they get busy, too busy. They say, oh, I can't handle all these 500 million of them coming out. Then that's when these guys, they escape. And then they go find another place where they have these, we call ulcers or inflammation, or somewhere they have lymphatic blockage and all that. That's where the white blood cell cannot function properly, and then they build a lot of subdivision. We call that a metastasis. That's called cancer spread to somewhere else. So this process is threatening to happen to each and every one of us. Even if you go to the sick kids hospital, you can find a lot of them, the kids with cancer, lots of them. So it is possible, if we don't take care of our body, then things could happen. And that's, so if we are, as I said, if we are eating healthy, then you eat 8 servings of vegetables and fruits a day, then you are taking good care of your body. You're like cleaning and sweeping the floor every day. And you keep the house clean. That's very important. But if you're not, then it's a different story. So when this neutralized, we can get the antioxidants from the vitamins, from the minerals, from different things that we eat and then take. But the most important one actually is this we call the lignans. The lignans are the antioxidants that's from the, there's a lot of them in the flax seed. In the food chain, the flax seed has the highest content, and but the highest one that's from the extraction because we come to chew the trees, right? So there's has to be a special way of extracting from these Norwegian spruce trees. You know, when in Canada we have in Toronto, for example, you have minus 25. With the wind chill, it goes to minus 30, 35. And then if you kick a plastic box, you might destroy them because they are frozen. And it's just, as you drive to the north of Canada, as you drive to North Bay or somewhere else, and it goes down the degrees, it goes to 30, 35, even 40. If you go to Yukon Territory, go to the whatever so if you go to the North Pole, which is where this we call the Norwegian spruce trees grow. Norway and Finland, they go into the North Pole, towards the North Pole, so it's very cold. And also, especially when you go to the mountaintop, it almost goes with wind chill, minus 60. And that's when these trees, they are almost the only thing that survive on those trees, the mountaintops. And these trees, they survive, the oldest of them in documents are over 10,000 years old.
I'm sorry, I mean that one tree is 10,000 years old?
Yeah.
One
yes.
tree?
It's Norwegian spruce trees.
10,000 years old?
Yeah, 10,000 years old, yes.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So there's something special in that they call the lignans. The lignans, they keep the tree alive. There's something called the lignans. It's actually something that has some kind of a warming up property. When you go to the Eskimo people, they can survive because they have something to keep them warm. There has to be something that keeps the tree alive because everything else is frozen to death. Now this one survives because of this lignans. That's how we actually found out as a human being, we live when we have body temperature, when we are warm. When we die, it's cold, right? So that between life and death, it's actually between warmth and cold. So when we die, we become totally cold. And that's how, so the tree has something called the lignans that keep the tree alive, that actually can help us to keep the human body alive, because it can warm up the body. Whenever somebody, if you go to shake somebody's hand, if you feel that it's almost freezing cold, you know that person is in trouble. We call that a yang deficiency or kidney yang deficiency. They are freezing up the body. when the body temperature drops by 1 degree, usually it's between 36.5 to 37.3. That's a normal body temperature. If you go beyond that, usually if you drop by 1 degree, let's say 35 point something, then you would increase your chance of disease by almost 20-25%. 1 degree. If you drop 2 degrees, you're almost close to dying. So it's very crucial that we keep our body temperature warm so that the blood can flow. If you cook fish and you put the fish in the fridge, it freezes up like jelly, right? The soup. If you boil it again, then it becomes warm soup again. So that's how our body blood too. Our body blood is like that. When you freeze up, the white blood cells, they can't swim anymore. They can't move around. They can't be snipers anymore. They just stay there and dormant because they are frozen. It's like it's almost like the tigers in the wood. When they were stuck in a muddy pond, 3 wolves came and eat him up. So they are supposed to be moving around, jumping around, and hunting for food. But if the blood becomes very cold or not flowing enough, then they become targets for the bacteria and virus. And that's how our body keep active and alive. So that's what we call the 7 HMR, the 7 HMR, different antioxidants together. So there's a lot of research on this lignans. So especially last 30 years, there's a lot of research on the lignans, and they are shown to do a lot of benefit to our body. Especially for ladies. Ladies, we have a lot more in our body to even more so than men, because there's something called estrogen. The estrogen is the estrogen molecule usually tend to knock up with the we call estrogen receptor in our cell. So when they're locked together, they cause this cancer cell or tumor cell to duplicate more than 1,000 times. And that's why when we get to a certain age, when the hormone gets off balance, we have excessive estrogen in our body, then it starts to cause what we call cyst, ovary cyst, or fibroid, or breast lumps, or something in our body starts to grow like crazy. That's caused by this problem. The good thing about it is there are ways to fight it, and the way to fight it is the estrogen molecule from the lignans. They have the same chemical formation, the size and everything is the same. It actually fools the body. They can do the same binding with the receptors, but they don't cause the cell to split. So that's how, if you have 500, these are like enemies in our body. So if you have 500 of them, then you supplement yourself with 5 million of we call phytoestrogen. It's a plant-based, but they don't cause a problem in our body, but it actually squeezes these ones to the back door. They go somewhere hiding. You can't even find them anymore. So that's how you save your body from all these different type of growth in our body. We don't need anything that's abnormally growing in our body anywhere. You don't want that. Even a fibroid. Sometimes we do have a little room let's say in our uterus. We have room to grow something like a baby, and even a fibroid can be very big. You can still survive because it's stretchable. But if something grows in your brain, it starts to cause real damage. Yeah. You know, the brain is compartmentalized. So anywhere that changes, it causes disruption in our body. So this is also connected with all the research on breast lumps and cancer and all that. This is a chart that you can actually find from the internet called dietaryfiberfood.com. There's some research and statistics about the lignans that's available from our food. We categorize them into 4 major categories. The first one is we call the beverages. So in the beverage category, red wine is the highest. So we measure these by micromilligrams, mmg. So we have kg, we have g, mg, and mmg, or micrograms. That is a very small unit. So in the red wine, we have 91.3. All the other things have less and less, especially Coca-Cola. There's nothing in there. Now the apricot and strawberry has 300, 400.
Yeah.
While in the vegetable category, we have kale and broccoli. They are the highest. So they have 1,000, 2,000. The others are less and less and less. And then in the oil seeds and nuts, the flaxseed has the highest. The flaxseed had 300,000. So it's a lot more than regular other food. So that's the natural source. That's how you get them. But the lignans from the Norwegian spruce trees, they are 17 times higher than the flaxseed. Imagine how many times it's more than the regular other food. So taking this is almost like we were talking about how the cell gets free radical damage. When we lose the electron, it causes this and that. So the electrons, it's almost like girlfriends. Okay. So when we provide our body with enough, let's say now, if you take, we call this one, 10 drops of this a day, it's almost equal to eating 1,800 apples, or 1,800 cups of apples. So that's how powerful it is. That's why if you're taking this one, let's say once or twice a day, you're almost like giving your body a trainload of electrons that will neutralize everything. So that's why it can help with a lot of things in our body. So it has all this we call approval from the government of Canada. It has 22 patents, and 10 drops a day would be very powerful for your body to fight any type of free radical damage. And it's good for men, especially with prostate issues. We actually have a lot of feedback from the field, from different countries. We have a lot of people even from a small island called St. Lucia. They use it very well. So it's proven to be a very powerful antioxidant for men and women. Women, we deal with all these hormonal imbalance and free radical damage. Well, we have, so our booth number is 136, and we have another one at 111. So we have a couple of booths over there on the so we are here for more questions, or if you have any questions right now, I can also handle them. Yes?
So the amount that you take, so let's say it was twice a day.
Yeah.
Would that be like 5 drops or 10 drops?
Yeah, 10 drops is the minimum. It's like the recommended dosage. That's usually the safest, almost like minimum. So you can take more. Usually for weight loss and belly and all that, you take 30, 40, even 50 drops. There's studies show that, there's studies that show you can get a lot more, you can take more without harming yourself. Because it also didn't put any additives or any sugar or anything to make it taste better. It tastes not that great, I tell you. But that's how you can afford to take a lot more.
Is it like flaxseed in the?
It's a liquid tincture drop. Yeah, it's a tincture drop. Yeah, it's like yeah, something like this. Something like this. Yeah, it's.
You put it in water?
Yeah, you can put it in water if you choose to, but it's more efficient if you put it under the tongue, because you can test it in your blood in 10 minutes.
Oh.
It goes right into, because saliva glands, it actually absorbs it right away. So it's more efficient if you can handle the taste. Yeah.
Where sources? Is it from trees?
Norwegian spruce tree.
Yeah, but from Norway or from?
It's actually from Finland.
Finland?
It's a Norwegian spruce is a tree species. It actually we have them in Canada. It's a spruce tree that they don't only grow in Norway, but it's more in Finland. Finland is more northern of Norway. Yeah. Yes.
So by them, do they cut the trees or do they extract the?
They actually the tree branch, when they drop down to the ground because of the snow or ice or whatever, they actually leave on. It has very much antioxidants in that keep the tree alive when they drop down. So we actually collect them, and then we have plants in Finland that extract them locally, and then we ship the barrels to Canada, and then we put them together in a box.
Come from the wood? The wood or the leaves?
It's the branch from the tree trunk to before the leaves. It's like more closer to the trunk,
Yeah.
that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the Norwegian spruce the most northerly living tree?
It's the north tip of the country. That's the most concentrated. Yeah.
Are there other trees that grow that far north? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah. That's why it's important, because it survived that severe cold weather.
So if there's other trees growing that far north, would they have it too?
No, they don't have it. It has to be this particular tree. We have some trees like in Canada, they are similar trees, but they don't have near as much content in them.
Do you have this available in other stores, or is it just?
They are in some, but it's typically not